Hi, I'm Mike McCormick, live from GBTA Studios here in Toronto, and I'm here with Ken Nicolane, Managing Director of Newland Chase Canada. Welcome back.
Thanks, Michael. Good to see you again.
So, of course, immigration is in the news virtually all the time, perpetually. And but when it comes down to business travel, there's certainly some very specific let's say impacts and issues in and around the business travel community, maybe different than what's in the headlines. But what are you seeing in terms of the global immigration trends we're seeing today impacting our audience here?
I don't think there's any significant change from last year. Last year when we talked a lot about NAFTA,
right?
And about what's happening with that USMCA. And that's now settled down. There was still some saber rattling going on around how that might end up, but I don't think you're going to see any significant change, right? I mean, when we looked at the result of that, it was pretty much exactly as we'd seen before. If anything, we saw a little bit of opening.
Right.
So the one thing I do find being here at GBTA is there's still a notable disconnect in many cases between the travel managers and their HR and their mobility department.
Right.
Right. You see that there's usually quite a silo, right?
Right.
And you see a lot of times there's not a lot of communication between the travel teams and the mobility teams and HR, and you get into issues of compliance, right? And I think you talked to Cassandra earlier. She's doing a session today on that piece, and that's really a key piece. I think is just that understanding that is someone actually a business traveler or actually entering the workforce in that country, right? So I think that's a key consideration to be aware of. So it's really that compliance piece, right?
Right.
So that's something I would say is an ongoing concern. And realistically, you're not seeing things lightening up globally. If anything, I think we're seeing continued tightening.
Okay.
Not so much here in Canada.
Right.
We've always had that, I wouldn't say completely open door policy, but we've certainly been more open than other places in the world.
Right.
Right. So typically, as the U.S. has been closing, we've been opening to take more advantage of that.
Right.
So for me, I think the real key is that people should be paying close attention to the travelers and what they're traveling for.
Right.
And being really clear on that, make sure their travelers are very clear on what method they're entering a country under.
Well, and as always, it's all about planning, right? And
absolutely.
Yep.
And tracking.
And planning. Oh, and tracking. Right.
Right.
And so, words of advice for travel buyers here in terms of their programs.
Yeah, I think I'd suggest they talk a lot more to their suppliers about integrated programs.
Right.
So, and not to turn this into a sales call, but one of the things that we really key into is integrating the short-term travel side of our business with our immigration piece.
Right.
Making sure that there is no compliance issue, and that when you do have people moving into countries for various reasons, they're doing it properly.
Right.
Right. So, and there's certainly tools around that, but I would say that to your point, preparation, and a lot more these days around individual traveler preparation.
Right.
Because you're just getting challenged a lot more at every border.
Yeah, any changes you see on the horizon related to immigration? I mean, certainly, like we said, it's in the news all the time.
Yeah.
Is it really affecting that much change ultimately for the business travelers? Is it more just to be aware and be alert to potential changes on the horizon?
I think it's that piece, right? And that's one of the core challenges is staying aware.
Right.
Right. Because things are changing so quickly. I mean, look at what's happening in the UK.
Right.
It's like fingers on the buzzers, right? What's happening today, and trying to understand how that's going to trend out. And obviously we don't know how that's going to wash out, but you can sort of see what the patterns are. And that's a trick, is really trying to prepare for that. So that's just another key piece. Your teams really need to be finger on the pulse in terms of what is happening around the world.
Right.
Right. And I don't see that things are lighting up anytime soon. I think you're going to see an increased focus on compliance. You're going to see a lot more focus on audits, right? Site inspections, so we talked about Europe a little bit. There's a huge movement around the posted worker issues, right? And I think companies need to be very cautious about that piece, making sure that people are properly registered and not registered, right? So I think there's just all these other sort of compliance and tracking elements that are becoming much more important. Right?
Great. As always, Ken, great expertise and insight into a really important fundamental part of the business of being in business travel.
Good. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
And I'm Mike McCormick, live from GBTA Studios here in Toronto.